Well, it looks like we're live. Or at least all this machinery here says so. Who knows how true that may be or not. And I heard my telephone go off, so that's probably a good sound or a good sign. So let's see here. What was it I was going to do? I was going to put something up. Yeah, it's the one I want to stick up there. Oh, where is that coming from? I got something running that shouldn't be running, and I don't know what it is. Well, it wasn't that, so let's see. I'll get this straightened out in a minute, guys. Hang on a second. I'm going to kill the audio for just a moment. Okay, sorry about that. Had some stuff running that shouldn't have been running. Let me turn that mic on. Now you guys over in Discord can hear me. I'm here. Yeah. Yeah, it does, doesn't it? There we go.
The wonders of modern technology.
Yeah, now I think I found. Yeah, I wasn't really ready to do a stream today, but was listening to a little bit of Bev do some of his stupid shit. What the hell? We may as well try to have a little fun on the night before Christmas, right?
Yeah, why not?
Hell yeah! What's up, farmers? How you been, buddy?
I'm all right, mate. I decided that I stopped work today, um, only because I'm going to have to do some of it next week. But yeah, that's been nice just to have a day of sitting there thinking, what shall I do? And then finding things to do, thinking, oh yeah, I needed to do this and I need to do that, and blah 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 blah. And, yeah, you know.
Yeah.
But
Bad news, boss. We got a work stoppage going on here.
and I was still getting work emails. It was just like, yeah, you can fuck off. Because I was sending emails yesterday, and you get all these pings that come straight back. I'm on annual leave until the 3rd of January, or the 4th of January, or the 5th of January, and you think, yeah, you might be, I'm not. And then that was my turn today, just like, yeah, sod off. It's Christmas. To
You
hell with it.
betcha.
Yeah.
So you got big plans?
No, not really, because I'm going to be on my own. So, well, hopefully Terry will do a stream tomorrow, and yeah, Christmas Day itself, I'll cook myself a roast dinner. Um, give the cats half a tin of tuna each, and just sort of chill out and see what's on the telly, I guess.
Yeah, there you go.
It's all about relaxing because the last few months have been really rather hectic. So I want a few days off of just doing as little as possible.
Yeah, you've been staying on the road a lot.
Um, I've had to book a hotel room for the Tuesday and the Wednesday of the first week in January because it's another little store for me to go to. So I've already booked the hotel room for that. It's been crackers. So I sort of looking forward. Okay, it's a week off that I don't get paid, but I don't care. I just want almost a week off. You know.
Yeah, I'd like to welcome Shanky and invalid option or invalid opinion. Judy Bassett and then She Bill are all sitting over here in Discord. And there used to be a way I could show it who was over in Discord.
Yeah, there is. Don't ask me what it is because I haven't a clue, but there should be a way.
Yeah, I got it here. So, well, it's probably, well, wait a minute. It's not real. That's not what I'm looking for. Oh, it's here somewhere. We'll figure it out. What happens if I turn that off? Nothing. I bet if I turn that off. Ah, that.
Jose's boy.
One of these days I got to figure all this stuff out. Hello, Judy. Merry Christmas.
Hello.
And there's Lil.
Oh, I'm trying very hard not to cough.
Yes.
How's it going, mate?
So who watched, as if anybody hadn't watched it, I assume everybody has watched parts of Nathan Oakley destroying Bev the other day.
I have not. I didn't know Nathan Oakley could destroy Bev because Bev is always level-headed if you get it.
Don't start that shit.
But I watched it. I had it running whilst I was working up until the point that QE came in. So I watched or listened to a fair chunk of it, and yes, it needed a lot of therapy afterwards. I have to admit.
Yeah, it was pretty brutal.
Yeah, and it's like, Bev, are you? Well, I mean, I know why he was there. It's for content, and so he can play the victim card afterwards, which is, of course, exactly what he's been doing.
Oh yeah, right down the line.
Yep.
That was totally predictable. Why I don't know why he would sit there for almost 3 hours and listen to that. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know why it takes him 3 hours to discuss what the word level means.
Oh no! Yeah, he streams 5 nights a week. He never streams at weekends. And if you go and have a look afterwards, these streams generally last anywhere between 3 and 5 hours.
Right.
And they're just talking about the same thing over and over and over again. Well, whenever I drop in and sort of listen to it for a minute, you just think, well, hang on, which day is this? Which stream is this? Because they all just sound the same.
At least they don't have the authority in all things, right?
Behave yourself, Lowe.
Yeah,
don't start that nonsense now.
Shout out to Invalid Opinion for a super chat. 100 and okay. Says, not sure I can stand listening to Bev. Just remember to have a nice Christmas and a fantastic New Year. Oh, and here's some money for eggnog. Why, thank you. I really appreciate that.
I didn't know you liked eggnog.
He didn't either.
No, Blue didn't either. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he had no idea either. But it was a good guess because I do like it. I'm not sure I want to drink $10 worth of it.
Yeah,
That's
I think that's about what that is.
I do have a pint of Black Russian that I'm just starting to work on. It's very nice.
Oh, there you go.
Oh,
I got a frozen bottle of Jaeger in the freezer there somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So a little Jägermeister never hurt anybody.
That put hairs on your chest, so to speak.
Yeah, you betcha. It's funny that stuff's gotten to be a popular recreational drink. I got introduced to that stuff back in the early 70s. And you couldn't find it in the U.S. I only ran across it because I was traveling in Germany.
Yeah.
And they certainly
Yes.
didn't drink it for fun. It was sort of like medicine.
It's quite a popular thing over here. Certainly in I don't know, maybe the last 10 years, maybe longer than that. I'm not sure, but yeah, Jaeger bombs.
Yeah, that's what they're into
Amongst
over
that
here.
crowd amongst the youth that just want to go out and get blasted. Yeah, the shout of Jaeger bombs goes out.
Well, that'll do it.
Oh, it could you?
Yeah, they mix Jaeger with Red Bull or some other energy drink. Tastes like crap, actually, I think. Hey, Lael for $5. Thank you, sir. This is to help the Eggnog Fund. Perfect. Loving it.
Blue, you could just drink $5 of eggnog and then you can spend the rest on the missus or whatever you do.
That's a good idea. Or I could do what's really going to happen anyway and just give her the $10 and forget about it.
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't change no matter what country you live in.
No, it doesn't. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And we wouldn't have it any other way, would we?
No.
Of course not.
Responsibility is too much for me, at least.
Yeah, well,
yeah. I dropped into Bev's stream. I don't think he'd been running very long, and I thought, hello, are we just saying the same old rubbish? And as I dropped in, he said, "Oh, we've got all the proofs. We've got proofs." I thought, "Have you?" And he said, "Yeah, we've got proof that level is horizontal." No, you haven't. "We've got proofs that all horizontals are parallel." No, you haven't. I've heard enough. Click. It's just like, do you actually know what the word proof means? I don't think so.
And Stringer News 1 to the rescue for $5. This is for the hangover remedy.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, we'll try not to have to use that.
That's why I drink vodka. Doesn't give me hangovers.
Yeah, good vodka doesn't.
This is Grey Goose. This is, in my mind, the finest vodka you can get.
That will do. I like it.
I'm finishing off last year's supply, and there's a bigger, brand new bottle in the cupboard, just waiting to be abused over the next week or so, I think.
Well, that sounds perfect.
Yeah, I'm not planning on driving anywhere for a few days, so sod it, why not?
And Lil for another $5. What is the probability that, I guess, let's see, one could measure level while drinking eggnog? I think you could definitely discover gravity doing it.
Oh, God, yes.
Maybe not in quite a really handy way, but there we go. Monochromatic light source member for 11 months now. Says, are we going to hear any evidence for flat Earth tonight? No, what we're gonna hear is how little Bev knows about a sextant and celestial navigation.
That won't take long.
He
outdone himself today, didn't he?
Oh, he went into full stupid derp mode. I mean, absolutely stupid.
Well, he knows how to use words. A lot of them.
Oh, he's got the best words.
Yes.
Doesn't know what they mean, but he's got them.
No, he doesn't.
He has a geometric proof that we don't need deep corrections anymore.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Did Euclid believe the Earth was a sphere?
Did Euclid
probably.
believe there? I'm not sure about that.
No. There was no conflict between Euclid and Eratosthenes and all the rest. Aristotle, all of them.
They all knew the shape of the Earth, didn't they?
Yeah, shape. Discovering shapes like discovering air.
Yeah. Oh, there it is. It's like Eratosthenes. Yeah, they say, "Oh, we discovered the shape of the Earth with some sticks." No, you already knew the shape. Back then, they already knew what bloody shape it was. He was trying to work out how big it was.
That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah, shape comes first.
Yeah, shape
And,
wasn't in question.
Yeah, you're measuring a sphere, but yeah, because identifying the shape that's child's play. Sunrise, sunset, eclipses, tides.
You'd think so, but there seems to be a large group of people out there who struggle with that.
Yeah, they also struggle with Eratosthenes.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd struggle to spell it without writing it down.
Well, let's see. Hopefully, you guys over in Discord are going to be, if you go click on me on my live little red button there.
Yep,
Hopefully
I've got you.
Hopefully, you're going to be able to hear what's about to happen. This was recorded an hour or two ago. So, let me just play a little bit of it and make sure you guys are getting the audio.
Mm-hmm.
This angle has baseline.
Got it?
Yeah, we got paper. Yeah.
Okay, so that's the way that'll work. You'll have to watch it in Discord that way. Or you can watch it on YouTube, but you're going to have to put it with a delay that goes with it. So let's listen to a little bit of this nonsense, and then we can break in and talk about it.
And this baseline is not horizontal originally. When you are on the boat above the horizon, let's say 8 feet, and you are pointing with the mirror on the horizon, you are not, this line between you and horizon is not horizontal. So this deep correction is to have horizontal line. This is what it is for. So they are changing angle because they have more.
Now, paper's talking about what they're talking about is the dip correction that you have to make if you're using a nautical type sextant, because you're above the surface of the water and you've got to remove that angle that's down to the horizon. And actually, paper has, as dumb as he is, he actually has it right. But watch what happens when Bev gets his hands on it. He turns it into a total goat fuck.
Or less.
Yeah, but nuh-uh. That's what I'm gonna say.
I'm just repeating what they say about that. So.
Right.
And that's only one of the corrections, huh?
Yeah,
Just
and I don't know
one.
if they necessarily. I don't know if that's necessarily accurate either, because I think that's what it is, as in they. That's the flat Earth debate people. That's what they are saying. I don't know how much I trust how accurate that is.
No, that is part of the procedure. I've looked into it. That is part of the procedure.
It would be
Not saying what, I'm just saying, yeah.
It would be in agreement with, for example, auto level, because if you have auto level is not pointing at horizon. What true horizon? It is above, because it is level. It is horizontal. But if you are looking directly at horizon, you are dipping down.
Correct.
So
Yeah,
you have to rise this. You cannot do that with a sextant, because the whole game is to shoot at horizon, not at point at horizon. But
Can you see this? I don't want to be stood up for too long.
I think it's frozen. Is it just for me or?
For me, it is not frozen.
Yeah, we can see.
Okay.
Okay, it's me, sorry.
Right, so here we've got a horizontal and a vertical. Right, so the horizontal and the vertical exist. This is somebody taking an angle measurement. Right? And it's measuring an angle from there to there. You right?
Yeah.
Here to here, these 2 points. I'll put that back on again.
Except the mistake Bev has already made is that he's got the guy looking horizontal. Exactly what paper was talking about. The guy is above the horizon. He's looking down to see the horizon. Hang on a second. He's looking at that. The guy, this is like a little Bev over here. Little Bev's looking down to see the horizon. Yeah, if you can see my little hand, right?
Yep.
When actually what you want is angle alpha. You want the angle from a horizontal, a perpendicular to your zenith, to the celestial body. This is the angle you're looking for. You've got to figure out what this dip angle is and correct for it to get back up to that point. That's where, so Bev starts right out getting it wrong. Excellent, Bev.
Blue. Hey,
So
Blue,
this is
does
the
X
angle.
mark the spot?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Does X mark the spot?
What X?
The big X in the middle, you know, in between the black line and the red line. X marks the spot.
Oh, you're talking about what Bev do?
Yeah.
Bev just draws random lines. That's
So
all.
now we know where the gold should be, right? Right in that center point.
I don't know. Maybe. Let's see what else. It's going to get a lot worse here in a minute.
Here, that's measured. Right? That's the angle. Now, if this person comes up here to measure the angle, the same angle from here to here, they measure this angle here. Right?
No, Dingleberry, that's not that's not how it works. That's not what's going to happen. If you move up, the horizon is going to move further away from you. You're going to have to look down even further to see it. The dip angle is going to increase. Your angle alpha to the celestial body remains exactly the same, but this dip angle is increasing, Bev. This is what you don't understand about it.
Now, it's the same angle from here to here, just a difference in height.
No, it's not the same angle. The angle increases as you go up in height. That dip angle increases. It has to. Even a window licker like you ought to be able to figure that out, Bev.
I think he's saying the other thing, though. If you look at angle alpha, if I'm staying at that black mark where angle alpha is, looking, say like we're looking at a building.
The person take.
Whoops, sorry. Let me put it back up on the screen. All right.
Say like we're at the black dot. That's my eye level right there.
What black
and
dot?
I'm looking at a, on your right hand side, see the black dot
Oh, you talking about this thing?
Yeah. So angle alpha, right?
Yeah, okay.
If I go up in altitude, that angle's going to get smaller, right?
No, it will
It's
not.
gonna change.
No, it does not. Because that star is, for all intent, infinitely far away. The angle doesn't change. The rays of light are coming in parallel.
Oh, I'm just talking about if we were looking at a building standing X distance.
Well, if you were
away
looking
from
at a
that
building, yeah, Leo, but we're not looking at a building. We're looking at a star or the moon or the sun, something really, really far away.
Just to put it more simple,
I guess you'd have to get up super, super, super high for that angle alpha to get smaller, right?
You have to go to the other side of Earth's orbit, and then you can only tell a slight amount of parallax.
You'd
If
have
you
to get
move
right next to the
180
star,
million
yeah.
miles away from here, you
Yeah, you'd have
barely
to get-
change the angle to the close stars, and to the distant ones, it's immeasurable.
You basically have to leave the planet.
Oh yeah, you gotta leave the orbit of the Earth. You gotta leave the solar
Yeah.
system.
That's what I'm saying. You would need to get like pretty close to the star itself
Yeah,
if you wanted to change the angle alpha.
yeah. That's the beautiful part about celestial navigation. Those stars are so far away, it doesn't matter where you look at them from. You're going to get the same angle. Altitude-wise, it's not going to change.
Yeah, I just wanted to say it in more simple words. Those two lines of sight are parallel. There's no change between the two lines of sight,
Yeah, this line
other
of
than
sight.
mathematically.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That line of sight and that line of sight are the same.
So is the red beams, is the center point on the red beam supposed to be where the star's actually at?
There's not any red on this slide anywhere. Where are you talking about?
The lasers, the lights.
Oh, you want to go back to Bev's stuff? Okay, hang on.
Yes.
All right.
We don't see the slides on Discord.
Yeah, we can't see the slides. Only on the on YouTube, I think.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm not watching YouTube. I'm watching the actual video.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. You guys aren't seeing my slides. I'm showing it to the to YouTube. You might want to take a look at YouTube.
Oh, I'm watching it live from Discord.
Yeah, but that's where my slides are not showing up.
Yeah, Bev's lasers don't really mean or do anything.
Yeah, I think everybody out in YouTube was able to see. Let me just check this once.
Yes, it shows fine on YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube's showing it. Got it. It's just I don't have it tied into Discord. Discord's just looking at this Bev window. That's all. My bad, guys. Sorry about that.
We just
No
see the
worries.
stupidity.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can watch the stupid part.
Thank you, Blue.
Were you finished, Shaki? Chuck. Where did Chucky go?
I guess he must be. I don't know. Guess he must be done.
Let's play a little bit more of this.
In the angle measurement. Is this angle any different than that angle?
Yes.
No.
Right, so the angle that's measured from here to here can be measured here and needs no correction to bring it down here because it's the same angle. Now,
No, it's not the same angle. When you go up, you have to look further down to see the horizon. Everybody knows that, Bev. There's no way you can go up in altitude and not have to look further down to see the horizon. There's only about a bazillion videos and pictures out there demonstrating this.
Well, it's common sense. Like, this is what's always baffled me. His feet are below his eyes. If he wants to look at his feet, he has to look down. If he wants to look at the ground, he has to even look further down. If he wants to look at water, and water is supposedly level with the surface of the earth, then he has to look down because the water's below his feet.
Always. That'll never change. Of course you got to look
Right,
down.
that's what's always baffled me about this stupid argument that you always have to look down to see the water.
Can't we just dig a hole for him at the water edge?
Well, I guess you could. You could put him in the hole 6 feet under.
Bev's never touched a sextant, though. That's the problem here. He's talking from pure ignorance.
I don't think
He said he's got one.
No, he doesn't.
Yeah, he actually has one. Yes, he does.
He's never
He's got
used
one.
it then.
After
Well, that's his maybe.
No, after I took him to the woodshed about that crap he pulled on Genesis, assuring Genesis that no sextant could possibly measure an angle greater than 60 degrees because it's a what? Sextant, right? And I did a video on that, of jackass moments of Bev making that statement. And magically, a few days later, Bev came up with a little tiny Tinker Toy sextant so that he could show everybody he had one. And in fact, his goes to 120 like all the rest of them do.
Yeah, but he's never used one he's never.
Oh, hell no. He has no idea how to use it. Not a clue. They're all clueless when it comes to this.
Well,
I
the
can
good
admit
thing.
I'm clueless on how to use a sextant, and I don't ever plan on buying one, so I'll probably stay clueless.
Well, the good thing about digging a hole for him at the waterfront, at the ocean, we can just wait for high tide.
And one of the beauties of the sextant that nobody brings up much is when you use a sextant and you bring the two images, the image of the horizon and the image of the sun, just you stop the lower edge of the sun and you add the semi-diameter to it. And guess what? That semi-diameter is constant. It's not getting smaller. It doesn't matter if you're doing it late in the afternoon. You're going to get some refraction if it's really, really close, but really close to the horizon, you're going to get some squishing of, but that sun is 30, 40 degrees, 50 degrees up. That semi-diameter is constant. So none of this getting bigger, getting smaller shit.
Well, he doesn't know what he's doing because just I think it was yesterday or the day before, he was claiming that you can't use a sextant over land. You can only use it on the ocean, which is totally completely false. Because bubble sextants they use on the airplanes, or they did use them in airplanes all over. And you can use a sextant on the land. You just have to figure out, you have to use a false horizon.
No.
Well, yeah, but even a marine sextant, they work better on land because you use a reflecting pool like a small pan of water, and that's better.
I think his claim was that we have other means because you just say you go by the tree, you turn right. Well, drop you at the Sahara and see you find your way by go up the road. Which road do you mean?
Yep. I wonder what they think people did before there were alternate ways of finding places. I mean, when there was nobody around to ask a question,
And for sextants, they would in the kit you'd have a small pool, you'd have a small jar of mercury and a small saucer, and that was your mirror. Instead of a pan of water, they would use a small dish of mercury.
Hey, shout out Nerd Alert for £5.99 or euros, I guess that is. On a flat Earth with local stars, the angle between the star and horizon should decrease with altitude. In reality, it increases. Weird, Bev? Yeah, pretty weird. Well, it's increasing only because that dip angle is increasing. How about that?
Bev's the biggest dip, though, so what's his angle?
Now that's a huge dip angle, yeah.
Well, can a sextant measure that dip angle?
Oh, don't know. Because according to Bev, it can only measure up to 60 degrees.
Later in this, he actually corrects somebody. So apparently I taught him something anyway.
Oh, well done.
Yeah. Shall we listen to some more derp? Let's see.
Yeah, let's go for it.
Do you imagine that if person was here and you measured this angle here, is that angle any different?
Yep.
Of course it is.
Nope.
Okay, so the actual correction that anybody ever makes for whatever reason they tell you they need to make a correction. They don't. If you're just dealing with an angle, it makes no difference whether you're here, here, or here. Because of the way angles work and the fact that this horizontal and this horizontal are parallel to each other gives you the very fact that all of these angles
What sort of
are
echo
the
chamber
same.
you got to be in to be
No
to
matter.
have any circle of adults looking at this and giving Bev the high five?
Well, they've never gone out and actually done this experiment. If you go out and do it, you'll find that it's wrong. But they've never gone. They just assume that they.
Even just at the simple whiteboard level.
You're missing something here, Larry. When you look at Bev and his cohorts, what you've got to bear in mind is Bev is the cleverest of them all.
They're probably fun. They're probably fun
that
at a
just
bar.
well, that tells you everything you need to know about why you've just asked. How come they're all giving him a high five and saying "well done"? Because he's cleverer than them, and yet we're sitting there going, "How can you be so dumb?"
No, I don't agree, because today, surprisingly, Pepper Organist proved to be the clever of them all, and he's not giving him a high five.
Yeah.
Okay, there might be the odd exception, but generally they're either too dumb or they're just so indoctrinated that they can't possibly bring themselves to say, "Here, hang on a minute, that ain't right."
And I just want to point that even if those angles were to a building, and I was corrected about it by Rumpus before, no, that middle angle is not equal to the two other angles.
No.
I do have sort of a philosophical question for everyone. In a fight between Bev and Nathan / QE, who do we root for?
Flat Earth.
You want them all to lose somehow. I'm
Yeah.
not sure
Yeah.
how you go about doing that, but yeah, the best
sort of
idea
like-
is get them all to lose.
Reminds me of the movie Dumb and Dumber, actually.
Those people are Dumb and Dumber people are way smarter.
I'd be rooting for the fight to spill over into the street right in front of one of those 40-pallet frozen food trucks.
Oh yeah. Oops. Oh dear. Hads makes a very good point out in the side chat. Cleverest of all best friends is like highest point in the fens. Hey. No, you got a point actually. Yeah, I can't defend the fens. It is amazingly flat.
I mean, you know, the hills around me are about 1,000 times taller than any of the IQs of any of Bev's group.
Well, yeah,
You know,
and when you say hills,
23
I think
meters.
yes, that's pushing the definition of the word hill, isn't it?
Yeah. Hey, look, there is an Iron Age hillfall on top of what 3/4 of the way up a hill round here. The top of the hill is at 17 meters.
Yeah, well, that was the highest point they could find, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You're not likely to get a nosebleed going up that thing.
No, you're not.
Hey,
It wasn't a very defensible position.
shout out to Digital Demonic Davros for 5 Australian. Hello, farmers boy, it's Hart. Hey, Blue. The derp on display is epic. Stay shallow, don't go too deep. Well, we'll try not to, Davros.
Yeah.
Shout out to Shallow Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Blue, in that fight, I would be rooting for the meteor.
Yeah.
Lands and wipes them all out. Yeah.
Yeah, let's hear some more derp.
Yeah, let's have some derp.
Where you are. As long
Maybe
as
we could
you're-
arrange for them to fight in Morecambe Bay at low tide and hope it goes to like 17 rounds.
Are you watching my live feed on in Discord, dog?
Yeah, I'm now.
Yeah.
I was in the middle of getting really annoyed with a Professor Stick video that I went to because I was already getting really annoyed with the Surus video.
Yeah, just
They're
for
good people, but they cover some real idiots.
yeah, just for anybody that's joined the Discord that isn't aware of it. If you want to see what I'm showing to YouTube, go click on my little live button there in Discord, and then you'll see what's going out live, and you can hear it too. Yeah, so let's go back and listen some more.
Within the parallel lines of the maximum extremities of the base and the top of the object and this one, as long as you're within it, it makes no difference which angle you're measuring. They're all the same angle. So if anybody ever tells you that it's necessary for you to do a correction of this angle,
If anybody tells you that, they probably know what they're talking about, Bev. If anybody tells you otherwise, they're full of shit.
to bring it down here. What
Yeah, if anybody
correction to the
dare
angle is
agree
there?
with a sextant manual, how dare they?
No, not that he said if you are within those extremities. Are we? Are we going from the ground to the stars?
Yeah, that is true. He didn't define what those extremities are. Shout out Nerd Alert for €5.99. Sorry, but before you can measure an elevation angle to a star, Bev must walk up to it with a measuring rod in hand. That's just basic surveying. You got it right, nerd. You betcha. And Lael for another $5. Davros, please realize that you have to appeal to Farmer's Boy. He is omnipotent.
Oh, Lael, do behave. Good grief. I do about me. This drink's quite potent. I'm not sure about me though.
A couple more of those comments. I'm gonna have to get one. Here we go. Let's see.
I just checked the Ordnance
They're
Survey
the
map
same
where I am
angle.
right now and can confirm my current altitude is between 1 micron and 250 light years. So yes, we are within that range.
Oh,
That's
good.
narrowed it down, hasn't it?
That right there is a handy little piece of information to have, isn't it?
Where's the correction?
Well, guys,
that
I
occurred?
developed a nosebleed from listening to this guy, so I'm gonna go to bed. But you guys have a good evening, all of you. Almost horrible.
Have a Merry Christmas, Invalid Opinion.
You too. See you guys.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Level is horizontal.
Oh, good God.
Sorry about that.
All right.
Within the angle. That's all we're talking about is this measured angle, right? Here, here, here. One angle. That's what we're dealing with. This is the angle that gets measured. That people are doing fantastic things with. One of the fantastic things is they're making an adjustment to it to move it. When the very fact of you understanding geometry should leave you knowing that you don't need to do that.
And that gives you a good look into the psyche of Bev. He imagines that he is so clever and knows so much about geometry that he can reason this out all by himself with no help whatsoever. Now, lots of people probably can, but Bev's not one of them.
Has anybody ever pointed that out? The basic geometric fact that you don't need to make a correction for the angle.
No, nobody's ever pointed that out, Bev, because it's just wrong. You absolutely have to make a correction for it. If you go up 45 feet on a boat deck, your correction is going to be probably 6 or 7 minutes of angle change. That's 6 or 7 nautical miles you're off if you don't include the dip correction, which is a curvature of the Earth plus refraction, by the way, for anybody interested. That's what's included in that number.
In geometry, which is the statement that was made about the angle. It's a geometric statement. Has anybody ever told anybody that? Anybody know about that?
Of course not, idiot. You're wrong.
I mean, it is just a basic geometric statement about that angle. But
I don't think I've ever had this discussion with anyone prior to right now.
This is the first I hear of this. So you're saying no height of eye, no, none of that is needed.
Wouldn't make
whether
a
you
difference.
take the angle from the water or from the toppest part of the boat, no difference.
No,
It would just be a difference in the vertical, correct? A few feet. That's the only thing that would be different, correct? The
well, you
length of
can
the
move the angle, like we've just said. You can move it from the top to the middle to the bottom. The angle will always stay exactly the same.
Right.
So what sort of a correction are you making to an angle that stays the same no matter where you measure it from?
Yeah, there is no angle correction. That's true.
So there you go, Brian.
Well, you know, if Yogi says it, it's right. I heard S.C. Montreal in there, and he's like the expert in everything.
Oh yeah, so as soon as he looks into something, he's an expert on it. Yeah.
Come on, Tim. I want to know why. Why I'm dressed like this? You want to know the real reason? Yes.
What is that?
That's coming from Timbo.
Timbo, what are you doing?
Hi.
Oh.
He's listening
You're
on
hot mic.
YouTube.
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah, mute your mic if you're listening.
Mute.
I mean, let's just remind ourselves here that Bev thinks he's some sort of expert geometer, and yet, as far as he's concerned, spherical geometry doesn't exist. It's not a thing. You're talking bollocks.
Yeah, that's a fact.
But he thinks he's this fancy expert professional geometer that knows everything there is to know about geometry. But don't you dare mention spherical geometry because he won't have it.
You know, one time I was over on their server there, and I asked the question, if you have a shape that has 3 angles and only 3 angles, is it a triangle? And they told me no.
What is it then?
I guess they can make up new shapes to suit their fancy.
Well, they will do anything that they can to pretend that you can't draw or plot a triangle on a sphere or on a curved
And if
surface.
you knock a pyramid over because it has the four angles on it, it's no longer a pyramid. It's just a pyramid on its side, but it's not really a pyramid anymore.
Well, it's still a pyramid. I mean, a cylinder's a cylinder, whether it's stood on its end or laid on its side. It's still a bloody cylinder.
Yeah.
I know. You're always right. You've never been wrong, Farmer's Boy.
Let's hear a little bit more of this stuff.
Just a geometric statement. Now, like as we know, we're talking about geometry, and you obviously are not talking about geometry. So it's about time you came true and let everybody know that you're not dealing with geometric facts here. You're talking about a procedure that is definitely not geometric.
Who's coughing?
Otherwise, you'd be telling people that you don't need to alter it with the angle. That's a known fact within geometry. Or based around parallel lines.
Oh, God.
Which is a well-known fact. If you know anything about geometry, it's an axiom within geometry about those very things. And if you understood geometry, then you would know this about these lines and the relationship that they have with each other.
It's an axiom.
Guess what, Bev? All those lines on those papers.
It's okay, though.
That you drew are parallel.
Yeah, you tried, Brian. Yeah.
Brian's
Go on.
logic has come into the chat
Run
at
away.
this point.
Oh, yes.
That was
He said
epic
earlier
because
that your original angle.
Who's
that was epic.
Bev or Brian's logic?
That was epic because I know what Brian is talking about. Yes, when he says a vertical, a not vertical, zenith distance. When you say zenith distance, they have no clue. We know zenith distance is also known as sky miles.
Oh yeah, sky miles.
Yeah, the sky miles. Brian's invention.
What's wrong with a sky mile? Those are the funnest ones.
Well, his argument, and he's right, that if we know the core altitude angle, we know the distance. So we can do something with an angle, right? We can know the distance. So we have an angle, and we know the distance from the angle. That's doing something with it.
That's all we need. We need the angle, and we know the distance to the GP of the celestial body. If we know the angle, the altitude angle to Polaris, we know our latitude. You can find out lots of things with just that angle. Yeah, that's Bev's big deal. Yeah, it's Bev's biggest deal. You can do F-all with an angle. Well, Bev, you can do a lot of things with an angle.
And that's amazing, because yesterday when he was talking with you about the angle, it said it's not saying it's spherical. It just says that you get 60 nautical miles per degree or something like that. So you should know that you get something from this angle.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Bev's statement needs adjusting. It's not you can't do F-all with an angle. It's Bev can't do F-all with an angle.
Or
Everybody else can, but he can't.
Right.
Bless his heart.
That is correct. The rest of us don't have any problem doing things with that angle. Bev does.
That's why he was saying on Twitter earlier on today, he was basically arguing against angular size, because that's an angle.
How do you argue against angular size?
Well, yeah, come on, this is Bev.
Oh, yeah.
You know, he's happy to argue against reality, so angular size is a piece of piss.
Silly me, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll shut up and just push play. Hang on.
It's obtuse. No, it is not.
Which angle's obtuse? They're all obviously fucking acute.
Of course, from horizontal or not horizontal, let's say from horizontal to the star, you cannot go over 90. So it is from horizontal to zenith. It means to vertical. So the maximum angle, and that's why it is called sextant. You can only measure with quadrant. You would make to measure angle to 90 degree, but with the sextant you can only measure to 60.
No. You see the addition of the mirror doubles the angle.
This is where Bev managed to pick up what we taught him a few months ago.
That's again, that's a geometric fact. The addition of the mirror allows you to go to 120 degrees. It is true, though, that a sextant is 60 degrees.
But still,
Brian,
nobody is measuring obtuse angles with sextant.
Nobody's looking at lights behind the back of the head.
I wonder if that is true. I'm not sure.
Technically, you can.
Let me pose this question. Let's say you're backed up to a coastline with a bunch of mountains and stuff, but the celestial body, the star you're looking for, is in that direction of the land there. So you've got no horizon if you look directly at the star. What happens if you turn around the other way and look out to sea and the star is a little behind you? Would that not work? I believe it would.
It works for me. I think they made the sextants 120 degrees for a reason.
Yeah, so you can measure more than 90 degrees. So maybe it does work like that.
Yeah.
Don't know. I've never used one.
I don't have any experience with doing anything like that with a sextant, so I won't say for sure that that's what you could do, but I see no reason why you couldn't.
one of the issues is also, like, if you're using a star, stars are kind of difficult because of identification of the star, and at night, kind of hard to see the horizon. So you're going at twilight, so you're going to use a big hitter star like Spica, Taurus, Vega, Betelgeuse, something that'll be one of the first stars to be seen in that twilight.
Right.
And yeah, it's so if the twilight is in your west and you have a big hitter which is behind you, well, you don't have even if it's ocean horizon to your east, the twilight may make that horizon hard to see, if at all. So that way you could use the west horizon, a star that's slightly east.
I see no reason why you couldn't do that.
Well, that's how it's done. I mean, that's why the arc goes 120.
Yeah, plus just the practicality of it. You've got a sextant, and if you add a mirror to the damn thing, it's going to double the angle. So, it's handy how it worked out like that, huh? Yeah.
Well, that was one of the ridiculous things where he said, "Oh, look, see, it only goes to 60 degrees or 90 degrees or something." And when we looked at the screen print, you could see that was definitely not 90 degrees. It's only 45 on the arc. So on the arc of a sextant, the degrees are half degrees.
Right. Right, exactly.
Yeah, so he when he identified, oh, look, see, here's 90 degrees, and it didn't even appear to be 90. I mean, it's like, how could you look at that and just say, well, it says 90, it is 90, and he drew the little lines on there. He goes, does that look like a right triangle?
No, it's a 45. If it's reading 90, the swing arm is at 45 degrees. That's what has to happen. Can't do anything else. We don't have much left of this.
Yeah, in their acute looks like, logics for so many things. It doesn't look like 90. Why would you call it 90?
We'll listen to a little bit more of this, and then we're just about done with it, and we can have fun.
Fucking ridiculous. Brian, I've just explained it to you. There's no need geometrically for you to make an adjustment to the angle measured. Doesn't make any difference. Wherever you are, the angle will always be the same. Unless there's some other extravagant thing. But that's not geometric, Brian. I'm just talking about the geometric facts to let everybody know the procedure of how the mathematical operation works. Now, if you want to go outside the realms of that geometry, just let everybody know. Be honest about it. Don't come telling us and everybody that the mathematical principles are wrong because you want to go outside the remit of mathematics to conjure up some fantasy that you've got just because you don't want to upset Nathan Oakley. Brian.
Yeah, I think that was the end of it. So, just to recap, let me go back to my two little pictures. Bev, this is why you're wrong. Now, you guys in Discord aren't seeing it yet.
Yeah, we'll catch up in YouTube.
Yeah, you'll catch up in YouTube, but you'll follow what I'm saying. I'm just going to run through it again for Bev very quickly. Pay attention now, Bev. There you are. You're making a sight. You're taking a sighting of that star up there. And the angle you're looking for is this angle alpha relative to your zenith, or a perpendicular to that zenith. You are always looking down to see the horizon, and that is the dip angle. We can't use angle alpha as it as it, I mean, the entire angle there, because it's got the dip angle included. To get angle alpha, we've got to take what the sextant reads and subtract a dip correction from it. And the further up you go, the more dip correction you need. Everybody knows this. It's quite obvious when you see those all those pictures. We've got zillions of them out there of people making pictures with their auto levels or pictures with water levels where they've lined the water levels up from on top of a mountain someplace, and you see how far down the horizon it's dropped. That's what you're correcting for, and it's absolutely necessary, even at low viewer eye heights. Even if you're only down at as I said earlier, even if you're only down at like 45 feet above the ocean, you will be off by 6 or 7 miles if you don't take that dip correction into account. On top of the other errors that are involved, just the vagaries of making these, taking these shots. So, sorry, Bev, but you have absolutely no damn idea what you're talking about. And as usual, you're just running your mouth and making one mistake right on top of another. So, I think that's enough of that foolishness.
I mean, the very start of his silly little diagram on the whiteboard there, he's got that initial viewing point. It's like you've dug a hole in the ground and your eyes are level with the ground.
Yeah, if you go back to, yeah, like that.
Yeah, there you are. See, he's starting with absolutely no dip angle to the horizon at all. It's as if your eyes are at ground level, which of course they're not, because we don't go around digging holes and getting in them. So as most of the things that he states are true, his initial starting point is wrong, and that just compounds the error as you go.
Yep. That is
Well
what's
done,
happened.
Yep. So of course, if that initial line is level like that, and then he draws his next one above it and says, "Oh look, they're parallel lines." Yeah, but it doesn't start out like that. You're standing on the ground and you're looking down at the horizon.
That's
so
right.
You're wrong before you bloody start.
Hello, PhD Tony. How are you, sir?
I'm well, thank you, Blue. How are you?
I'm doing okay. Just doing a little impromptu stream for fun.
Yeah, well, good to see you. Good to see everybody. And it's a great opportunity to wish everybody a happy Sol Invictus and season's greetings, that sort of thing. So
absolutely.
Happy Saturnalia.
Yeah, that too. The thing that gets me about Bev and indeed flat earthers in general is just the number of fairly simple ways we have of demonstrating the shape of the earth. Like we've got abundant evidence from multiple different disciplines. And I mean, sorry, somebody's mic there was crackling at me, but we've got the earthquake evidence, we've got the atmospheric pressure wave evidence, we've got various ways of measuring the satellite laser ranging, very long baseline interferometry, GPS. We've got all of this data that shows us what the shape of the earth is. So Bev can't be right, like not on any single level. He just cannot be correct. But they all sort of dig their own hole in the ground and they just focus on what's in that hole. They just ignore all the other evidence. Like Gary Waibenga and his whole geometry of vision rubbish.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, they just make stuff up.
I mean, we know it's not flat. We take photos of it from bloody space every 10 minutes. I mean, good grief.
I was leaving out that evidence, but yeah, we do that.
They can't even explain a bloody sunset adequately. I mean, come on.
Yeah, well, that's true too.
Oh, it just goes away. Really, really. Okay, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, quite an amazing thing, those Bevites. How they managed to sustain that argument that they're not flat earthers is what absolutely astounds me.
Well, they're just plain silly buggers. I mean, the fact that Brian's logic comes in to rescue Bev whenever he says anything is stupider than normal. And Brian has no qualms about describing himself as a flat earther. So,
yep,
they were right on one thing, because Brian says he knows the angle and he knows the distance, and there is a right angle, but still he won't give the elevation or distance to the sun.
yes, Brian says a lot of shit, and very little of it is real or accurate in any sense whatsoever.
Oh, come on! If you saw the video we put out a couple of weeks ago, how the full moon shadows debunk the Earth being a globe. I mean, that's an epic piece. That's a masterpiece. That video is. If you can sit through half an hour. Ahem. Hello there. Ahem.
Well, I have to say one of the you know, there are multiple things that Blue does that impresses me, but his ability to sit through and watch flat Earth content is one of them. I have no patience. I don't watch any of their material.
I personally see that as a severe character defect on my part. Normal people would not do what I do.
Yes. Well, normal people wouldn't do what I do. You know, the sort of Phil Bell and I talk to one another about the reactions we get from our colleagues when we talk about flat earthers. Like, yeah. How about you get back to designing those satellite orbits and stop doing that shit?
Did you see the guy put out the video on orbits on the flat Earth and how they don't make any sense? They basically look like spirographs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed he's. I can't remember his name, but he's doing. He's producing a lot of good content. It seems like.
Yeah, a very recent one was by that. Was it the Asylum?
I haven't heard anything from the Asylum recently, but do carry on. I didn't see it.
Yeah, well, he goes through quite pretty good in depth, you know, up to the timeline and showing, you know, Ptolemaic and then the epicycles and how Kepler straightened it out, getting rid of the epicycles to explain the retrograde motion. And yeah, so he has a computer generated spirograph, which is not really what they had, because they had their epicycles were circular, and the position of the planet was the point of deference, I believe it was called, was the center of the epicycle, and they used just circles for the epicycles, and they weren't all that accurate. However, neither were measuring tools, so they did not have the spirograph.
Here's the guy I'm talking about. His name is Dave McKeon.
Now you can change it all around. You know, computer, you know, modeling being what it is. Yeah, you can draw the positions of the planets like a spirograph, as if you're on Mars. Kind of looks the same. Yeah, you could be on the moon. It just look, you know, that much more complicated. Just reference frames, that term we love.
Yeah, there's the one. But the one I was talking about was that guy named Dave McKeegan.
Yes, Dave McKeegan. Yeah.
Yeah, he's too.
Yeah, he puts out a lot of decent content. There's Prof. Phil Bell in the chat. Hello,
Yeah,
sir.
he's out there.
Hey.
He's out
So he's playing the age card, is he?
there. Yes, he is.
I'm old, so I'm forgiven for being eccentric. Okay, I'll have to remember that one
Yeah.
when I get
I'm-
to that age.
Well, hey, I'm older, so I think I can get away with about anything.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's true. Yeah, we'll give you that.
There you go. Yeah, I got
And the
another.
link I posted, is the one that Larry was talking about.
Huh?
Yeah, I noticed.
Is the
I
video.
noticed you got. Sorry. Carry on. Sorry, I.
No, the link I posted. I posted a link to the video that Larry was talking about.
Yeah, the Science Asylum. Yeah.
Oh, the Science Asylum. Okay.
Yeah, I got another one up on the screen right now that YouTube's looking at, in case you guys want to.
Yeah. Yep.
It's the famous Modus Tollens from Quantum Eraser. And
Yes.
Bev has taken issue with this one too, for the wrong damn reasons, as usual.
Uh-huh.
Bev is correct. It's not right, but it's not right for a totally different reason than Bev thinks it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not right because it would only be correct if there were no atmospheric effects whatsoever.
That is correct, sir. We debunked this years ago, Bev. Pay attention. I'll go through this quickly. What Quantum Eraser has done here is to confuse a calculation which is based on no atmosphere on the Earth. 1.225 times the square root of the observer's height in feet does not contemplate an atmosphere. And then in the second half of his Modus Tollens, he goes through real observations, which obviously do include an atmosphere. That's why the entire damn thing is invalid. Try to get that right, Bev.
And it also shows a fundamental misunderstanding of the very concept of symbolic logic. So it's not a case of if P then Q. It's if P and R then Q. So if not Q, then either not P or not R. And the R in this case is the planet doesn't have an atmosphere. If Earth has a radius of blah, 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 and doesn't have an atmosphere, then the horizon can be no further than blah away.
Right.
You're even wrong with that. Because if it's Earth as a sphere with 3959 mile radius, then it's not the horizon can be no more than that distance away. It is the horizon is that distance away.
Yes.
So their opening P is wrong. And if you're going to take refraction into account, it should say the horizon will generally be 1.1 to 1.25 times that far away, which is more than, not less than. So their error went off in the wrong direction. And then, as you pointed out, at the end, they've got a not Q, therefore not P, with a P that wasn't the P they put in the if P, then Q in the first line.
Well, personally, I think we should ship them all off to a place without an atmosphere so they can test it for a while.
Yes. It would make
Yeah, but-
life pleasantly.
But I think it's talking about sea horizon, and you'll have to have water without atmosphere. See how you manage this.
One other problem in there. If you look closely enough at that second rig, there is another really big problem, which is that the horizon is at about 1.1 to 1.25 times that distance in front of the second rig. That's why you can't see all of it.
There is a bigger problem. There is in every horizon. Really?
Well, yes.
My horizon is very short. There are full of buildings around here, and I can see very far.
Yeah, this is a common misconception of what a horizon actually is. What they're talking about is every true horizon distance. But you know, and this gets back to a lot of the stuff that they do. They just misunderstand terminology and misapply it, and they're not using symbolic logic correctly because they're leaving out some of the stuff that's in their version of P, or that's before the implication. So it's I don't understand how you can not understand basic logic, but assume that you're some sort of super genius, scientific super genius. It doesn't make any sense. And as usual, I've killed the conversation. That's
Well, no, you haven't. No. The entire premise of calling this thing a black swan was flawed to begin with. In order to be a black swan, it needs to be a result that's not expected, and this is exactly what you expect to see.
Yes.
So it could never have been a black swan in the first place. We know we know what refraction does. Everybody's seen it. You see it all. You've seen it all your life.
Yeah.
You know for a fact that there are going to be those days when the atmosphere is all funky and stuff is bouncing around, wiggling around, and really looking nasty. And then a day later, or 2 days later, or even just a few hours later, it's crystal clear. We see it all the time. It's quite expected. Yeah, back to my position, which is always has been. Those kinds of observations are interesting, but basically worthless. On any given day, you see exactly what you should see for the atmospheric conditions that exist at the time you're looking at something. No more, no less.
But, and it's worse than that, really, because they acted like that was a point of discovery, like they were the first who have ever had that occur. And given the array of photos, they picked the one that's visibly distorted looking at that crane and go, that's the truth.
Yeah. You're not supposed to look at the crane. You're just supposed to look at the horizon. Forget the crane.
Yeah, don't look at what one hand's doing. Look at what the other hand's doing.
Right.
Ignore the fact that the whole rig looked like it's melting.
And didn't Bob actually prove that even using the black swan photograph that the picture between the first and the second oil rig is curved because you're not seeing enough of it. You're not seeing all of it yet, even with that much refraction.
Oh yeah, I showed that in the very first debunk I did of it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
all of it, not just some of it.
It's fairly it does stand out in that photo, but this is the concept that a lot of anti-science people use, and it's been commented on before, is whack-a-mole. So you can beat them down from one position, you can beat them down from the second position, you can beat them down from the third, you can beat them down from the fourth, and then they'll appear back at the first.
Yep.
And it's true of climate denialists. It's true of vaccine denialists, and it's especially true of flat earthers. They just they don't have the attention span to retain the fact that you've already discussed this, and it's very evident in debates where they want to keep on moving. They don't want to stay on one topic and discuss it and resolve it completely. They'll stop you halfway through and want to discuss some tangent from that. And it's an intellectual trick they use to stop themselves from processing and internalizing data that they're receiving. They don't want to do that. They're not going to do that. They just want to focus on whatever bright, shiny object is nearest to them. And if it looks threatening, they want to move to a different bright, shiny object.
Yeah, they're quite good at that too. And that's a great analogy, I think, Tony. They do it all the time. The minute they think it's not going their way, they'll just move on to something different.
Yes, yeah, and they've got, and they're, this is the thing that Oakley and the Globebusters do, is their excuse, their reason for existing is to come up with new talking points, to come up with sort of new points, which you can debunk easily enough, but no flat earther is going to let the conversation dwell there for the 5 minutes that it's going to take to educate them.
Nope.
So.
Hey, shout out to Davros for another Australian $5 blue. I remember clearly Black Swan 20 was eradicated in January with you, myself, and Farmers and Terry and a bunch of others. And that's true, Davros. Absolutely.
Mark Tin just posted something in the chat here. It's the inscribed angles theory, which was what I was looking for. Because what Bev did isn't quite right. It's not from two parallel lines from two straight lines. You actually have to go inside a circle. So that middle point isn't inside the circle. It's too far, if you will, in for it to work. He's close, but he's not quite right. Like, once again, just like everything Bev does.
Oh, yeah. I'm looking at...
He posted it at 3 minutes past the hour.
Yeah.
So that's exactly, thanks, Mark. I was looking for that. That's exactly what what's wrong. It's inscribed angles theory. It has to be a circle, not two straight lines. So when you go straight up, you'd also have to go back some in order to get the angle to be the same.
Yep. Let's see. I could, well, it would take a lot for me to show that. I'm not
Yeah,
gonna bother with it.
It's probably too complex for Bev to understand, but
Well, it's not a long journey to get to that point. Believe me. Now, here's the black swan, or if you want to call it that. Here's the modus. I don't want to even call it that. Here's the modus tollens I want them to respond to, because I've been repeating it now for 2 damn years. If the earth is flat, then the horizon can never appear in front of any distant object. How do you explain those same 2 oil rigs 2 days after the fuzzy picture?
Yes, that's the issue. But you can't. One of the problems here is that as soon as you show any picture of the oil rigs, they'll start prattling on about theoretical properties, theoretical and absurd properties of light that they've made up in the last 2 seconds. That will explain it. Gary Wybenger's geometry, Oakley's prattling about the Rayleigh criterion, etc., etc. None of those actually do the job. None of those actually explain what they're supposed to explain. They're abject scientific failures, but it gives them an opportunity to spew enough word salad that they think they've answered your question. It's one of the reasons I don't actually like optical evidence, is because you end up going into the weeds. You end up going into whether or not flat earthers understand light. And the reality is they don't. And this was demonstrated by Whitsitt claiming that he believes the speed of light is infinite. And flat earthers asking whether or not light travels. Whether or not, perhaps it just is. Perhaps it just, it doesn't actually travel. It just covers the distance in instantaneously. And we can prove that isn't true. I mean, there was a paper released earlier this year that actually photographed laser pulses in transit. Yeah. With a 1 trillion frame per second camera. But they don't understand light. And at the very suggestion, the speed of light is infinite. Really? Is it the wavelength or the frequency that is infinite there? Because that's the speed of light is the product of those 2 numbers. Does that mean that if you convert mass into energy, E equals mc squared, you get an infinite amount of energy? Does that mean that the momentum of photons is infinite because that's h times the frequency? It's just a scientifically absurd thing to suggest, but their misunderstanding of basic physics and even optics is so profound that they'll come up with that as a suggestion. It really beggars belief. That they will talk about refraction effects and then say, well, the speed of light could be infinite. Well, if the speed of light is infinite, there can be no refraction. There can be no change in velocity. And the angle of refraction would be infinite if it comes from infinity down to a finite number. it just makes zero sense whatsoever. Sorry, I'm rambling now, but the
and,
more
and some of them, and it's some of them that are quote surveyors, but they've only worked in like construction or small, 20-acre stuff, and they say they carry on the same thing. They're using an electronic distance meter which uses the speed of light. So they don't know the equipment they're using, and they're speaking with authority as if they know. And then they're always asking for the repeatable science. Well, when you look at the Black Swan, now you have 100 photos, and maybe 3 or 4 of them are incongruous. Well, in their science logic, all you need is one. No, you have an array of data. You have to evaluate the data. They get guys like Gleam. He says he's a data analyst. They say, well, okay, look at all the data.
Gleam will pick an argument and pursue it to the ends of the earth just to be contrary, because it's the only way he can get attention. And it's rather sad that that's all he's got in his life, are these idiotic arguments where he assumes that he understands science books that he's read, and he really doesn't. But he will argue forever about them, until the heat collapse of the universe, because that's the only way he can get attention, and that's the only way that he can get validation. By being.
He will never acquiesce to anybody being a deep expert in a field that he's not better than.
Yes. And it's and it's really kind of sad, because he, I don't think he is a flat earther, right? He certainly doesn't. But he hangs out with the flat earthers because it's the way he can get the attention that he really needs. But it's kind of pathetic. And I'd really like to know what the quality of his work products are, if this is whether or not he's as argumentative and obstructionist in producing analytical results at his workplace as he is on the internet. Because if he is, I suspect he wouldn't have a job after 5 hours.
Well, that would be interesting to know for sure.
Yeah.
But you know, the same is true of so many of these guys. They cannot possibly exist in the real world in the same way they exist sitting behind a computer screen. Nobody would put up with it. Nobody.
Yeah.
Can you imagine Quantum Eraser talking to a man face to face the way he talks when he's on YouTube?
No.
No, I can't. And I mean, Quantum Eraser is we could go on we could have a live stream about the psychological problems of various flat earthers, but Quantum Eraser is so odious, such a hate-filled, toxic individual, who imagines himself to be a Christian, I think.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And it's really so sad. You're an adherent of this religion that proposes peace and tolerance, but you are one of the most toxic individuals that has ever walked the face of the planet. Really right up there. It's bizarre. Colin Sixhitter says that today he heard a Flurf, he or she heard a Flurf say that radio waves do not propagate through space. Well,
you guys carry on. I'll be back in a sec.
You should tell that to GPS. They don't actually, or any of the other satellite systems, or indeed the sun. We get radio waves from the sun.
Yep.
Heck, tell it to my local FM station.
Yeah, well, that's true too. This is the other thing. Like, actually, the air around us is 99.9% space, right? It's mostly empty. There's not much matter in the atmosphere. Anyway, I'm kind
Yeah,
of
I wonder why it's hard to transit radio underwater.
yeah.
This is almost as dumb as the gas doesn't have mass argument they come up with.
Well, don't gas cylinders weigh more when they're full? I think.
Yes,
Well,
they
that's
do.
because apparently the walls give them, the container gives it some properties. I mean,
Okay. Well, here's an argument for them.
Blue
Can
is
they
the
show
one-
me? Can they show me a container that isn't in a container?
Ooh. I mean, blue was the one that originally did the one with the pipe of propane, was it, or butane? And
Yeah.
inside that container, even though it wasn't sealed on top.
But a bucket's a container.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, they also, they say gas has no weight. It has no weight. And so so you take a block of dry ice, put it on a scale, and as it sublimates, are you saying that those CO2 molecules lose the property of weight? And they say yes.
Yeah.
Well, if you take
Okay, so if you could capture that, if you could capture the CO2 and refreeze it, does that give it the property of weight? Does that bring it back?
I don't know what they think. They've got no understanding of when you look at it that way, you've got to look at it in terms of the energy possessed by the individual molecules and the way they lose energy and the energy involved in forming a solid. Flywell says it's all the spectroscopy that weighs the gas cylinders down. He's got something. He's got a fixation on this spectroscopy, Flywells. I think he's envious of experimental physicists. But they don't understand energy at all. They don't understand conservation of energy. They don't understand, the central properties that gravity has to have. The fact is that using their using their argument, you should be able to create energy by lifting and dropping things in media of different density. It should be a spontaneous mechanism. You should be able to design a spontaneous mechanism for generating infinite energy. It should be possible. For instance, you could drop solid blocks of carbon dioxide. It would take zero energy for the carbon dioxide to go back up the top. Freeze it again, drop it again. You'd get energy out of it. It's just but that's not how reality works. We have a detailed understanding of how all of this stuff actually happens.
What would be even using that? If you would take a piece of dry ice in a box on a scale and let it sublimate into gas, the weight doesn't change.
Yes. Yep, that's true. But
Then the problem is in the container. And they say, "Oh, you need a container." You see?
No, that's because fuck. But I guess this is just to prove that gases have mass. So you're saying
yes,
doesn't matter. You know their logic.
I gotcha.
But this is their thing. According to their argument, all of the containers we see on Earth, all of the gas containers, all of the buckets, etc., are inside a container. So all containers are inside containers. So if they're claiming that the dome is a container, it must be in a container. And whatever's containing that container must be in a container, because all of the containers we see are in a container. It's, the way they say all gas needs a container. Well, all the gas that you see in containers needs a container, but that means nothing. But I'm kind of thinking that there must be a way to sort of gain traction if we point out that all containers need containers. I don't know. It's a stupid thing to say, but it's kind of throwing their own stupidity back in their face. If we say, well, all containers on Earth are in containers. So that means your container has to be in a container, and the container for that container needs to be in a container. And you end up with an infinite universe, and we're right back where we started. Yeah, well, containers all the way up. Judy Bassett gets what I'm talking about. The rest of you have gone silent like I'm babbling insanely.
No, you're
Which,
making sense. That makes sense to me. In a nonsensical sort of way. I mean, you put yourself in a position of thinking like a Flurf, and yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
How do you deny that? If you can't see a container that's not already inside a container, every container must be inside another container.
Yeah, which means that their dome must be inside another container, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
You had to get them. You had to get them going on a container. They had to stop with container and then go to sealed container once you did your butane experiments.
Well, yeah, they went the other way. They started out with a sealed container, and then they had to back up and get rid of the sealed part of it. Yeah. Yeah, they're still pissed about that.
I guess test tubes are containers too, then, because you do all your chemistry inside test tubes. So, I mean, you don't prove that chemistry works outside of the test tube, then.
Well, by that argument,
chemistry works outside the test tube. We were doing one of those solubility things where you try to dissolve stuff in cold water, then try to dissolve it in hot water, and then try to dissolve it in cold hexane, and then try to dissolve it in hot hexane. And the way you heat up the hexane is by putting your test tube of hexane into a beaker of water that has been heated with a Bunsen burner. Because you don't want to put a test tube of hexane directly into the Bunsen burner. That would be silly.
Well, you could, but it would be dangerous.
So I heated up my beaker of water and I put a test tube of hexane into it. And whoever told me that as long as the temperature is below 90 degrees, it's okay, was wrong. It's actually okay if the temperature is below 80 degrees. My hexane boiled. This cloud of hexane vapor came out of the top of that test tube at high velocity, then ignited, hit the ceiling and spread out in this beautiful orange fireball that reached about 3 meters in every direction. Beautiful.
Did it catch anything on fire?
Nah, burned up too fast to actually light anything. So
must
it just made a few people blink.
It's also not got the greatest combustion temperature, and it doesn't stay around long. So,
right.
So the damage should be relatively modest.
I knew a guy that became a doctor after all. He would heat closed systems and shoot those big meter long chemical thermometers. He shot one of those across the room. And when we came to organic unknowns, he got toluene, and the way was to make it into a solid was to nitrate it. But the instructor stood over his neck because he was supposed to make dinitrotoluene, which isn't the world's most stable compound. But if you mess it up, you get to end up with trinitrotoluene, which is TNT.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that'll ruin your whole day.
Right, since he was known to shoot thermometers across the room, the instructor was right on his butt the entire time.
We made the dinitrotoluene and nothing went wrong that time, which was quite impressive.
Nice.
But we did a super saturation thing. You know the thing you can do at home that people do around age 7, where you dissolve as much salt as you possibly can in really, really hot water and then dangle a string into it. And as it cools down, the salt comes out of solution onto the string.
Yes.
It's a nice little demonstration. And you get these giant salt crystals, and it's kind of cool when you're 7. Well, there are some salts that don't come out of solution if there isn't the string there. You can dissolve more of this salt in the water, in hot water, than you could dissolve in cold. You can demonstrate this, dissolve as much as you can in cold, then heat it up, and hey, you can dissolve more now. But when you let it cool down, it doesn't crystallize out. You have a super saturated solution. And you drop a single little tiny seed crystal in, and
that's all it takes. Yeah.
Instantly crystallized.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, we were mostly stirring this stuff in with glass rods, as one does. Not Andrew Wood. No. Desk next to me, he's stirring his with a wooden splint. Why? So that he can burn it afterwards and see what colour the flame is. Potassium nitrate.
You do need to. I have concerns about the laboratory standards you're working under. There needs to be some responsibility for these people, right? Anyway, it does remind me of the famous British accident with reactor coolant. So they had this massive load of nuclear reactor coolant, and they needed to dispose it. And they looked at the radiation levels. They looked at the radiation levels of it, and it's not that highly radioactive. So they were looking around for a site that was suitable for modestly radioactive material, and they found one that had been tested and authorized. And it was a well, so they poured all of this reactor coolant down a well, except that sodium at that stage was very widely used as a reactor coolant. And of course, the sodium did what sodium does when introduced to water, and massive explosion that threw modestly irradiated sodium over miles of the English countryside. And the English authorities did not report this to anybody because, according to them, it was a chemical accident and not a nuclear accident. So they didn't have to tell anybody that they'd messed up in this particular place. Yeah, you've kind of got to look at what your stuff is made of when you're doing things like introducing it to fire or introducing it to water, because it can end up badly. Sorry, I'm prattling again and killing conversations left and right.
Never heard of that one, Tony. Even though at one time I was part of a security force for the nuclear response teams that would go out if there was an accident with them transporting nuclear fuels.
All right. How often did you end up going out in that particular instance, or would you have to kill me if you told me?
I didn't, thank God.
Okay.
We don't have I don't think we've really had much in the way of those sorts of incidents here in the UK.
Right.
But you know, there's always contingencies, aren't there?
Yes. It's better to have a plan and never have to use it.
Exactly. And I was literally going to be, you know, one of the people with guns keeping people away from it.
Oh, Paige the super fluff. Oh.
Oh. Amazing.
Actually, then and she just goes on to say something that's stupid. The horizontals and the horizontals and the verticals are perpendicular in the diagram Blue has on screen. You know, you're just wrong.
Really? I don't think those are.
Well, you've got your verticals. You've got your verticals going up away from the center of the Earth.
Right.
And if you had any horizontals on there, they'd be perpendicular to those verticals.
Yeah, they would.
Yeah. So the horizontals and the verticals are perpendicular in this diagram. The horizontals aren't shown, but they would be perpendicular to the verticals in this diagram. There's no problem with the diagram.
No, none whatsoever. It's highly exaggerated. It's the only problem with it.
Yeah.
You really are not going to see 3 or 4 arc minutes on a drawing.
No. human eyes aren't good that way.
Yeah, you won't be able to discern the difference. So we exaggerate it, in cases like this. This is Larry's drawing, actually. And it's exaggerated just to accentuate the fact that they are not parallel.
This is interesting. Paige says she knows it's right. It's geometry. Yes, Paige, I have graduate qualifications in mathematics, including multi-dimensional geometry. So it's, you're coming in here with what you claim is a correct understanding of primary school geometry, and you're wrong. You're just wrong, and everybody in the world knows that you're wrong. Anyway. She can't hear us because she's got Discord playing. Okay.
Okay. Well, it's okay,
So-
Paige. You can go back and listen to it later.
It makes you wonder why she's here then.
Oh, just playing around, that's all.
Yeah.
They like to drop by and needle the people in the chat when they can. But fair dues, I do it to them too, so that's okay. I don't mind.
Yeah, yeah.
They do get a little excited, though. I don't see
Well,
her being attacked by anybody out there very much, though, really.
No.
If I
She
go
does.
if I go to Bev's place and just say, good evening, I'll have 10 of them jump me and call me names.
Yeah. Well, of course, because you're a threat to their, this is the thing. They've got to sort of maintain isolation. So they've got to drive off any interloper because, you can destroy what they've built, the illusion. They can't allow reality to be introduced. They've got to fight off anybody who might drag reality into their server, which is why they're so hostile and territorial.
Yep.
You see it all the time. I mean, I went onto the Tartaria server to try and sort of correct something that FTFE and his opponents were getting wrong. I forget exactly what it was. Yeah, that's right. It was that stupid. It was the stupid you make guesses about refractive effects. And you do, but you make guesses about every observation you make. You make guesses in terms of how much error is associated with that observation. Where is the truth value in relation to what I have observed? You are guessing, but you constrain that guess and you propagate the uncertainty due to that guess through your analysis. So you constrain the errors on your ultimate results of whatever calculations you've done. There is an element of guesswork in all observation and error propagation. That's fine. That's why we assign uncertainty estimates to everything that we derive. And the effects of uncertainty and refraction. Anyway, I wasn't allowed to speak. They just shut me down and said, no, you can't speak. And you would think, well, if you want to get to the truth, it shouldn't matter where it comes from. It shouldn't matter who gets to speak, and that's kind of why we're a lot more. We're a lot less threatened by flat earthers than flat earthers are threatened by us. And hello, Dr. Nimrod.
Yeah, that's just a characteristic of them. They're easily threatened. I'm not. We are not.
Yeah.
They have no arguments that we can't easily defeat. And we have defeated every one of them. They have nothing. Never have had, and they're not going to.
That doesn't stop Bev to say that nobody defeated the argument.
Well, this is that Bev doesn't understand that he's been defeated. That doesn't mean that he hasn't been defeated.
That's right. That's exactly right.
There's a and this is the thing that there were a bunch of fluffs when FTFE was on there who were arguing about how Brian Cox was contradicting himself and spouting nonsense. Well, that's based on the assumption that you, the flurf, have correctly understood what he's saying, and that's a false assumption. The reality is that flurfs don't understand the vast majority of what's said to them. And they don't understand logic. They don't understand technical terms. They just don't understand when their argument has been destroyed. So it's like, playing chess against a pigeon still matches as a very good metaphor for what's going on. They just don't understand what's happening on any level.
That's right. And they haven't. They just they do the flat Earth reset. No matter what you do to them, they just do the reset. Go right back to the same stupid argument they had to begin with.
Yeah, the old whack-a-mole.
Yep.
Yeah,
exactly. That thing that's up on the screen that Paige was yammering about. I showed Bev at least that one plus 6 or 7 other ones similar to it, and we can come up with hundreds of those. Hundreds of them. Reciprocal zenith angle measurements in every case. Those angles add up to more than 180 degrees. It's indisputable observations and measurements that have been made, empirical measurements that demonstrate that those verticals cannot be parallel to one another. And if they're not parallel, the horizontals, which are perpendicular to them, also cannot be parallel. Now,
Yes.
I don't know how you can just ignore all that evidence and say, "Oh, it's just wrong." No, it's not.
Well,
it's not just wrong.
Yeah. Well, their argument, they're kind of in a sense they're copying the attitude that I take, but my attitude is based on actually we have an immense amount of evidence, and you can present whatever you want. You can present a grainy refracted photo. That doesn't prove anything because I'm aware of this huge body of evidence that directly refutes anything you claim to be showing in a photo. You can show sort of a diagram on a whiteboard. You're not going to convince me because of this evidence over here. Their attitude is kind of the same. They've got this body of evidence, but this body of evidence is destroyed by any one of the observations we have, but they don't understand that. They think that it's an equivalence. They think that it's intellectually equivalent. They have a huge body of evidence. We have a huge body of evidence. But their huge body of evidence is based entirely on willful ignorance, cherry picking the stuff, and sort of also willful myopia. They won't expand their vision beyond the carefully selected talking points that they've got, and they'll bounce from one to the other as quickly as they can, but they don't want to have their gaze brought onto any of the stuff that's in between. Charlie Welsh apparently teamed up with Katz to win a quiz show, so that was good. Congratulations.
Good. Yeah, congratulations.
But apparently they beat FTFE and Deadly Dave, whom I don't know.
I don't think I know who that is either.
But it sort of. I've seen Gary Wobenga around a lot, so he's the first person that sort of comes up to me. He's got this thing about the geometry of vision, which is this complete nonsense. But he claims that it explains why things are obstructed bottom up. It doesn't work on any mathematically or logically on any level.
No.
But he's focused on this, so he's conquered that, and he's got enough word salad that he can sort of defend himself against anybody trying to talk him out of his position. And it doesn't matter what else you present. He's got that, and he's going to hunker down and shield himself in that hole and never look at any other evidence and just hand wave it away because he's convinced that works for him. And sort of the most flat earthers have a variety of these foxholes that they can sort of hunker down in for a little while, and then they'll run out and jump into the next foxhole.
Yep. And they're pretty good at it.
Yeah.
That's what his page saying. Justin Franks, how do you draw a square if vertical lines are not parallel? What?
It's well, I think she's referring to sort of the walls of buildings, having sort of mostly perpendicular walls on buildings. You can't have that if they're not if they're not parallel. Which sort of ignores what I was talking about earlier, margins of error. Within the margins of error required for a building to stand upright, the effect of curvature over the width of a building is small.
Tiny.
In engineering terms, negligible.
Yeah.
Smaller than the errors that are associated with erecting a wall. Over a few hundred feet. The precision that you need is not that great that you need to take curvature effects into account. So she's prattling nonsense, but what did you expect?
Well, that would be true.
Unless you're doing something that really requires you, like LIGO, to be perfectly.
I have a question for this space. If you draw a square on a paper, on a table, is any of the lines of the square vertical?
Page isn't listening to us, but yeah.
I think he does.
Okay. Well, yeah. They don't really understand geometry. I had somebody, there are a couple of them, Glenn Souch. That's the one. I had him try to tell me the other day that all shapes are two-dimensional and there's no such thing as a three-dimensional shape. And just no, you're just wrong. That's a falsehood. Like they don't understand. They make up these weird ass things. And this was going to feed into. This was somehow going to feed into a flat Earth argument that he was going to make. And I said, but that isn't true. Like, we do have three-dimensional shapes. You're just spewing nonsense. But that they don't understand geometry at all.
So this guy's never heard of spheres or cubes or things like that, right?
Yeah, I don't know what he had heard of, but he was convinced that shapes are two-dimensional and forms are three-dimensional. Yeah, I don't know what he was on. Anyway. They are coming up with some spectacular arguments. Some of these people.
It gets crazier by the day, honestly.
Yeah.
They seem to be. They seem to think that the way the process works is if you just repeat the wrong thing day after day after day after 6 months or 10 months or a year and a half, whatever, of repeating that same nonsense, it just becomes true for no good reason.
What's the big lie? There was a individual who came up with that theory. You tell a big lie long enough, it's going to be true.
Yeah, that's what they do.
Yes.
Classic propaganda ploy.
Yeah, it's the there are some serious psychological problems going on, but the issue for me is that the exact same things that the flat earthers do, the young earth creationists do. And I actually got, while helping out FTFE, I answered a question on tides that I kind of messed up. Got half right and half wrong. But I got this email from this astrophysicist saying that I'd messed up the answer, and which I knew. And did I want to talk about it? And he's an astrophysicist from Answers in Genesis. And going, well, and I'm just going, so, you think you're less ridiculous than the flat earthers?
Well, yes, because at least they don't think the Earth is flat.
Well, this is my problem with flat earthers, is that, the less stupid people can always say, well, at least we're not flat earthers. But actually, you're every bit as bad. And they're
way down the rabbit hole right with them, but they haven't stooped to the flat Earth because they haven't.
This is why I resent the flat, and this is why I resent the flat earthers. If we could get them out of the way, then we could turn on to the creationists, and if we could get the creationists out of the way, we could get to some of the important anti-science arguments that climate denialism or vaccine misinformation.
Right. When I first started this, I always thought that the flat earthers were the first. The first thing you believe in is the flat Earth, because it's such a silly one. It doesn't really have any influence on anything. But actually, it's the last one you come to. All the other ones come first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. You sort of descend into it.
Right, because it's so ridiculous that even some of the crazy people who believe, even the Answers in Genesis, who are crazy people, they haven't gone that far.
Yeah, that's right. But it's one of the reasons why, and I think that Quantum Eraser actually knows this, because so I stopped making flat Earth content and started making geochronology content for a little bit, and as soon as I started doing that, he started making videos about me, which he'd never done before. And you just, and so my interpretation of that is that he considers geochronology a more serious threat to his belief system than he does anti-flat Earth stuff. Because he'd never made a video about me. He's made videos about all sorts of stuff. But as soon as I started talking geochronology, he wanted to sort of start and pick some argument about flat Earth stuff. So I think he definitely has. He definitely has his priorities in terms of he really feels the need to protect young Earth creationism. And so the flat Earth people are kind of running interference. That's how I feel that QE looks at it.
Well, QE is one of these religitards who basically looks at science backwards, who starts off with the Bible is true, therefore we have to cherry pick science to find the few things that say the Bible is true.
Yes, and it's and it's weird because, as I mentioned earlier, I just don't think that he's got any understanding of the theological content of Christianity.
No, he's got a fundamentalist interpretation. The Bible says what the Bible says because that's what it says.
Yes.
Trying to see if Paige wants to come in.
Oh,
Paige from Australia?
Yeah.
Yeah, Paige
Oh
from
my
Australia.
God. I promise to be quiet if Paige is here.
Okay. I don't.
Well, see, because Southern Hemisphere flurfs are the dumbest of the dumb. I mean, they're the ones that can go outside, look at the sky, and say, hey, there's a second rotation point that doesn't have Polaris at the center. It's going the opposite direction than QE says. Why is that? And they ignore it.
I thought there would be an Australian competing flat Earth society that treated their South Pole and made fun of the people in the Northern Hemisphere. Figure there's some perimeter,
Right.
land war.
Yeah, they should have this. I'll post the Southern Hemisphere flat Earth model. Yeah, you're right. They should, but then again, only like 12% of the population of the world, human population of the world, lives below the equator, and most of those people are Indonesians and Brazilians.
I know why, but it's just like you said, Australians flat earthers are extra stupid.
Right. Along with don't forget South Africans and New Zealanders, flat earthers.
Oh no, they exist everywhere, but yeah, but if you're in a negative latitude, boy, that you're a hurting pup.
They have no southern hemisphere pride at all.
Yeah. If you come down to Australia, one of the souvenir things you can get is a Mercator map that's been flipped upside down, with Australia at the top. So yeah, that it has occurred to me that sort of Australian flat earthers should be looking at this. But Antarctica plays such a pivotal role in explaining, why you can't get to the edge, right? You can't turn it around. People have been all over the North Pole, and it's well known, and they've taken photographs and everything, so you can't actually flip it that way. The fundamental thing is that Antarctica has to play this sort of edge role.
And fundamentally, the flat earthers, they embrace shit that nobody sees. They dismiss things that we both see. Like, oh, the sun, trust your senses, looks flat. Oh, look at the sunset. That's an illusion. Don't trust your senses.
Here's the Southern Hemisphere blur.
Yeah. Yep.
And the thing about it is you can have an AE map from anywhere on the earth. The ham radio guys, I have one sitting by my radio. It basically tells you which way to point your antenna whenever you're talking to anybody. So it's useful to a point.
Oh, the AE maps are fabulous. They're a perfectly good tool, perfectly legitimate map. They have application.
Right.
Like if you're like at at an airport, you would have an AE projection centered on the airport. If you're a military gunner, you have a gunner rocket or gun encampment, you could have AE projected on your location. Azimuth of fire. There you go.
Yeah.
No, they're ridiculous. They think that the AE map was some sort of revelation that they discovered and it's been hid. Gleason did not invent the AE projection, and he didn't even pretend to. And on his map, he labeled it a longitude time calculator. But no, they want to read something into it, like, oh no, that's his code or something. But I mean, Mercator had AE projection.
Yeah, well, it isn't actually named after Gleason, right? I think that sort of the concept.
You talk a lot of flat earthers, it's the Gleason map to a lot of them.
Here's the interesting part about the Gleason map. I'm going to post this too. He actually calls it a projection in the legend on this map. He calls it a
And,
projection.
and he cites the draftsman or the technician that generated it. Got the guy's name right next to it.
Yes, it's a again their their argumentation is flawed, but the vast majority of flirts nowadays will kind of piss all over the AE map, completely unaware that it at least gets one thing right. The azimuthal AE map gets distances from the poles correct. That is at least something correct about this map. And you would think that it would at least be better than getting nothing right, which is what they're doing now. And this is another part of the myth that I think they need to be slapped with. I think they need to be slapped with the fact that if they don't have a model, they're not doing science, because science is about developing and refining the model that is most consistent with observed reality. If you don't have a model, you're not doing science. It's just not scientific at all. So until they have a science, and until they have a model, and they can demonstrate that it performs, that it models reality better than the spheroidal model, they're irrelevant. They're just doing nothing.
Paige didn't seem to want to show up.
No.
Well, she mostly died, even at Bev's.
Well, all we can do is try, right?
Yes.
Yeah, can try. I should get the idea that the square needs vertical lines.
Yeah, I don't know what she's talking about there. Somebody was saying in the chat that Bev claimed to have proven that the horizon was a square.
What?
I don't understand.
I suppose nothing much surprises me, but that's confusing.
Yeah, that's I can't even begin to imagine what the contortions that they're forcing through, that they're forcing themselves through to get to that point. But then again, Bev is something of an intellectual marvel, in the sense that he puts a considerable amount of intellectual effort into being as obtuse as he possibly can be.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing to dedicate effort and brain power towards.
Yeah, I have to say the hoops he jumps through on a daily basis are somewhat amazing.
Yeah, but and it's no less true for other flurs. I don't know how they. But it is remarkable. And the thing about the vast majority of them is that they are, quite objectionable as individuals. You look at QE, you look at Oakley. You even. I'm not sure that Whitsitt is as toxic as those two, but he's pretty contemptible as a human being. they're none of them nice. They're none of them good people. None of the big ones, anyway. I'm sure that some of the smaller ones are probably perfectly reasonable, but yeah, it's just there seems to be. Sorry, I'm babbling a little bit, but I will continue just a little bit more. Actually, I do understand why they're generally objectionable, because flat Earth is at its very heart an antisocial belief system, as most anti-science positions are. And the reason I say that is because society relies on communication, cooperation, and trust. And flat earthers exhibit none of these properties. They're not willing to effectively communicate. They're not willing to effectively cooperate. And they're not willing to trust. So they are and obviously they believe that there's a large, multi-decadal conspiracy involving hundreds of thousands and millions of people actively deceiving themselves and their loved ones. So they've got a paranoid delusion that drives them to mistrust and hostility. And the reason they're willing to accuse other people of being so dishonest is because they themselves are dishonest people. If they were paid to lie, that's exactly what they would do, because they feel no loyalty to what's actually the truth, even though they claim that they do. They will lie and deceive and destroy other people or attack other people just to preserve their own worldview. And you find it in all, you find it in the QAnon conspiracies, you find it in the vaccine denial conspiracies. It's an anti-social belief system.
Yep. Designed to be that way.
Yes. And in that sense, it's quite sad that people end up sort of being sucked down into that vortex. Judy Bassett claims that Gary would be reasonable to talk to if he was talking about dairy farms. I'm not sure I believe that's true.
Well, my description of the bulk of the flat earthers, they're just verbal graffiti. They just hate the academics that brought them all the technology they're surrounded by. They're on a computer, they get into a car with anti-lock brakes, get into airplanes, they trust the braking system built by Newtonian mechanics in an elevator, and then they say all that shit is fake or works by luck or misunderstanding. They're just spray paint on a bronze statue. It'll wash off.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not sure that they're spray painting. I'm going to go back to the pigeon simile. It's more like pigeon crap on a bronze statue.
Hey,
Stick with verbal. I just had to use verbal graffiti because that is it's just slinging insults.
It is, yeah.
Well, yeah, they like doing that.
And how is it's just? I'm not sure if I should take the conversation then. I think I'll think better of it.
Well, that said, go ahead.
It just seems like the ideological preferences of individuals like Eric Dubay, and the racial preferences shown by prominent flat earthers as diverse as Nathan Thompson or Iron Horse, Flat Earth Aussie Jesus. you know, they seem to gravitate towards flagrantly racist positions, and I'm not sure how that. I'm not sure why it comes as a package, right? I'm not sure why that sort of racism ends up bundled with flat eartherism. I don't particularly understand it, but it seems to be a pattern that we've sort of encountered a lot of racist and indeed sexist fluffs. What is the name of that map projection that people are spamming in the chat?
Oh, these are AE projections, just azimuth or equidistant based on different parts of the globe.
No, they're not.
No, that's not AE. They got some crazy names. But the fact that you can see both poles simultaneously.
Well, that's just an AE map backed out a little bit.
No, they're not AE maps.
Well, it generated from AE map. The ones I post, I generate from AE map.
Well, the AE map generator, if you quote a larger radius. You get that from that. Did you make that with that NT6?
The one that I posted, the first one I posted, the Aussie flat. I don't know what they did there. I think what they do is you make the radius a little big, and it. I don't know that. I just saw that one, but the other ones.
And notice the center. The center is at latitude. That's the real thing. Is you put the center. So they're depicting a different different grid. They're showing latitude, longitude instead of radial, and you can see the black spot being center. So
you're talking about the one sitting on Aussie that came from the Wikipedia site, and I think what they did is they kept you're right. They kept the latitude, longitude based on the poles, but changed the center of it.
Yeah, because if there's that if you use that generator, that NT6, whatever.
Okay.
I don't. So again, that one's not mine. I stole that one.
Because I actually have been asked to produce maps of this style for plotting.
Here, let me see if I can find the site that I did. The ones that the Ring World ones that I posted there, with those are basically showing that you can pick. You can have instead of Antarctica being the ring, that any continent can be the ring if you pick the right spot. I can post that site if you'd like. Let me see if I can find it.
Yeah, but normally the antipode. So you seem to be showing the whole world, and then some things show up twice. So
No, anything showing twice. I don't.
In at least one of these plots, surely.
No, what happens is you just get huge distortions.
So if you go back up to the one that dog put up at about 10:57, you can see south. You can.
I put up the link for the map generator. It's NST6, and that's a nice little form, and you can fill a radius. You can depict the different kinds of different styles of grids.
Okay. Because I was unable to. I was asked to generate a map like this, but I was unable to find a map generator, and the mapping software I use is GMT, Generic Mapping Tools, and I don't think it has this projection in it, or I didn't know how to get it to generate this style of maps. Anyway, I'll try again.
Yeah, the NST6. Yeah, that's a guy that does for radio, so you can fix your position at the center.
Now, the map I just put up there, that's one that seemed to have caught a lot of people's attention because the continent scales are a little better presented. And that's the Hellerich triaxial Aurelian projection. And you notice the longitude lines, they center on each continent, and in the open ocean there are no longitude lines. So
Yeah.
it makes the Earth look like a lot more water. But at least Australia doesn't look stupid because it's actually 3 maps kind of stuck together.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see what they've done there, but and I've seen this thrown around as a better flat Earth map. But obviously it gets the scale of the oceans completely wrong.
But where is Antarctica?
Yeah, well, it's presumably a ring around the other side or something like that. But it would look really stupid.
Well, on this one, it stops at like 60 degrees. So yeah, I've seen other of these Helleric triaxials that do include the ice wall, but this one doesn't go beyond, like just barely beyond South America, so it stops at like 60 degrees.
Yeah.
Yeah, you ain't there yet.
Not a lot of point in showing Antarctica in a polar projection like this.
Well, it would look really weird. So the Antarctic Peninsula would show up more or less proportional.
Well,
and then
particularly the way the longitudes are broken up.
yeah, that's exactly the point I was making. So parts of Antarctica would look reasonably accurate, and then other parts of it would be massively distorted and distended.
Well, this map, the charm of this map is that the continents and land masses aren't grossly exaggerated. So when you get to the Antarctic, there's no, you can't do that. You end up with something, probably a divide by 0 somewhere. Okay.
Yeah, the relative sizes of things don't seem to be that far off.
Yeah, that's the charm. Yeah, that's the charm. It's still, it has its purpose. But yeah, you see the longitude lines center on each of the major land masses.
Yeah. Yeah, and then you get that big wazing bunch of water between them, which...
Well, yeah, what looks like 180 degrees of longitude for the Pacific.
Yeah.
Yeah, which isn't quite how it works in reality, but yeah, there are a lot of these sort of bespoke map projections that people have come up with.
But I do think that is a reasonable depiction of reality because it's bi-directional. When you depict it that way, you're not stuck with it. You can plot a point on there, determine its latitude and longitude, and transfer that to any other map. So yeah, it has its function. It's not the one you use for navigation or many things, but it may be a perfectly good one for grain exports and population densities or things.
Yeah, like that. It would have its uses for plotting up economic or political quantities or some social aspects. But
yeah, particularly since it doesn't exaggerate the size, so that Antarctica looks like it at least like it should. Not necessarily as if you're going to be able to pull out a ruler and measure the distance to Africa, but Africa is looking, Russia looks pretty normal as opposed to those enormous Russians. Russia looks so freaking big. Well, because it's got such a high latitude, yeah, it's all stretched out on Mercator or Peterson.
I like the map made by Fish personally.
Yeah, that's a.
And Greenland is not the size of Africa.
Yes, Greenland is not the size of Africa, which is important. But that one again has stuff showing up twice in it. That last one.
Well, it's done by Fish, so.
Okay, but I mean, there are a lot of very clever map projections out there that are useful for different purposes. One of the elements that you've got to remember, however, in map design, and a lot of people overlook, is, and actually this is true of graphics in general, is your color choices. And you should never have red and green on the same map. You because
mess with people that are colorblind doing that.
Yeah, 12% of males have some form of red-green color blindness.
Right.
That's one of the things that I constantly have to sort of berate my colleagues about. Don't have red and green. Don't have red and green. Oh, Paige is back. Look.
Oh yeah, she is.
And then there's the 4-color map theorem, which I've never been able to figure out.
Oh, that you only need 4 colors. Yeah, there's a lot of that was only proven once we had computers powerful enough to do the analysis, which is cute.
Oh, let's not get into color theory, please.
No, let's not. But yeah, and this is one of the features. One of the features that flat earthers seem quite oblivious to is that actually representing where stuff is, what direction it is, and how far away it is something that map designers have spent centuries actually doing and trying to do as accurately as they possibly can. And it's not the case that a bunch of clowns with no idea where anything is or how far away it is get to overturn don't get to overturn centuries of achievement by extremely skilled and clever people.
Oh, and they question the distance between cities that airplanes fly.
Yes.
They say, we don't know the distance. Well, airplanes do fly it reliably. Well, then, of course, we don't really know. They didn't measure it, did they? They're just, going by airspeed.
Right. Airlines are really, they take a really expensive airplane, fill it full of gas and a couple hundred people, and just kind of hope that it'll get to the destination because they don't really know where it is or how far away it is, how much gas it'll take to get there. They just kind of hope it makes it there, right? That's how it works.
And you don't have to go very far back when a freighter or cruise ship leaving California going to Hawaii was completely dependent on sextants, and they didn't get there by luck. And they got there by the manual with dip correction.
Yes, you can look at some of the great achievements in terms of navigation, like the guy who was explaining the Shackleton trip from Elephant Island to South Georgia, or
Shackleton
Captain.
one.
Yeah, the Shackleton one. Or the Bligh journey where he was
the Bligh journey. I was waiting for someone to bring that up, and he didn't.
Yeah.
He had a section, but he didn't have the book, so he remembered it all. Bligh was
and in that case, they lost a crew member, or they got attacked the first time they sat down. Maybe a crew member got killed. I'm not sure. But they decided that they couldn't risk any more landings before they wanted to make as few landings as they could before getting to Jakarta, or whatever, Batavia as it was then called. Actually Batavia is slightly different. But anyway, they wanted to get to Batavia. So they had to map the entire thing and work out if they had enough food and water to make the trip without any landfalls. And it was a close run thing, but they did. And they deliberately didn't make any landfalls because they were afraid of being attacked. but they had to make the calculation: how long is this going to take? How far do we have to travel, etc., etc. And they made it perfectly. So it's these achievements, these things that have been done, and we have Bly's logbooks. These are actually in the National Library of Australia, I think, because Bly went on to become governor of Australia. But he's these achievements, these things that have happened and have been done and are still done on a regular basis, flat earthers just completely ignore. Oblivious to the fact that they couldn't do anything even remotely similar to it. And again,
yeah, well, it wasn't done by accident either. I mean, it's been done time and time and time again. My God.
And you would think that this would begin to sink in, but they're too busy thinking that they're geniuses.
Well, they're beginning to teach celestial navigation again to the midshipmen at Annapolis as a backup in case something happens to the GPS system.
Yeah.
For quite a while, they weren't even teaching it because we have GPS. Well, now everyone's concerned. Well, what happens when you lose GPS?
Yeah, because they're considering so people are considering active measures to try and disrupt GPS, and there are
not only to disrupt GPS, but in case of you start blowing nukes off, you start losing everything.
Yeah. Well, there are people developing satellite systems that are designed to sort of be less easily targeted and less easily disrupted. It's a growth industry in at the moment in sort of satellite analysis. All of the geodesists I've noticed in the talks that I've listened to over the past 12 to 18 months that a lot of people are going on about robustness and how it needs to operate and all of this sort of stuff. So it's become sort of an urgent thing for people to consider. But as you say, we can do it with the sextant, and we've got calculators, so it's much easier. It's much easier to do the mathematics. I'm constantly sort of made self-conscious by every time I introduce the spherical distance formula. People go, the Haversine formula. No, this isn't the Haversine formula. This is the spherical cosine rule. The Haversine formula is a different thing. It was specifically designed so that you didn't have to do as many multiplications as the cosine rule requires, because you could make more multiplications are more prone to errors. So the Haversine formula is this very clever mathematical thing designed to minimize the impact of human error. But nowadays we don't need anything even remotely as clever as that, because everybody's got a handheld calculator.
Oh, machine calcs. Yeah. Not only, given GPS failures, that's going to take out, computation board ship. They'll still have computers and software.
Yeah. And frankly, if all of the computers on your ship have been taken out, I'm not sure if you're navigating anywhere, to be brutally honest. But I don't know. I don't know how hardened American naval vessels are against EMP, and I don't think that the American military particularly want me to know that information. But yeah, I think you'd be in a lot of trouble.
I finally found it. Here's the site for the AE map anywhere if you want to take a look at that, along with the other one that was posted that was a radio site. This one, you just kind of drag it around. It's a little more intuitive.
Okay. Thank you.
Which goes back to what I think about the bulk of the flat Earth people. They don't believe their own crap. This is just a cosplay for the bulk of them. there are damn few that are completely cognizant of the state of technology that they enjoy. I keep thinking about somebody like Phuket, which he carries on. He goes, "Oh, satellite photos are all CGI or fake." Until it's a typhoon coming down on his damn neighborhood, then they get very real. I mean,
Yes.
satellite photos of hurricanes. I mean, yeah, that's a very real event that okay, showed up in the photograph, and it's a photograph at a scale that cannot be done in an airplane or balloon. Or the Tonga eruption caught on satellite. There's no way airplanes just happen to be there. And scale.
Yes.
And multiple satellites.
Yes, and the pressure wave created by that eruption circled the Earth for days, like still detectable 73 hours later.
Well, someone was posting these seismic waves going out, and you could see the rings form as you hit the detectors. Now there aren't a lot of detectors in the middle of the Pacific, and you could really see it when it hit California, because you got a bunch of sensors there.
Yeah, I did it.
And Blue, you use your Cavendish for an earthquake detector there.
Oh, don't start that shit again. I've heard enough crap about that.
I don't understand why you got crap about that. Like, if you shake the floor.
Exactly.
Sorry, I couldn't help.
Like,
you got a lot of shit from the idiots who didn't understand it. That's why.
Well, yeah, it's people that are desperate to try to discredit the experiment one way or the other, any way they can. But yeah, I mean, it's quite obvious. If the damn floor the thing is sitting on starts shaking, what do you think it's going to do? Just I'm not here to pay any attention to that. I'll just ignore it. I'm sorry. The damn ground's shaking.
Yes.
Imperceptibly, and just because you had an ultra precise instrument, just happened to be video recording it at the timestamp appropriate.
Yep, sheer luck.
Well, that's why they put these network of these seismic detectors all over the damn place and just watch them 24/7.
They do it with GPS receivers. There's literally tens of thousands in continuous operation, and for a lot of the work I was doing, I would go to there's a database by Scripps Institute, and I could find hundreds of receivers all over the place to augment the work I was doing.
So they send them back up to the communication satellites to communicate back.
No, it's a website. The data shows up like maybe 12 hours late, but yeah, I can pull data recorded from other receivers. Like I was in China, and those guys didn't understand, and I said, oh well, I'll just pull data from Beijing and Seoul, and they go, no, you can't do that. Yeah, look, they got a receiver running. It's there on the website. Pull it down a copy of that. Pull down a copy from Seoul, and I generated the position for where I was in Harbin, and they were just thought that was black magic because they had no idea you could get GPS data from Beijing online. And you can. And so, so when it comes to earthquakes or tectonic plate shifts, I mean, there's all kinds of, not just the shock wave, but the displacements can be had in very short amount of hours because there's receivers running up and down every fault line, across every plate, every island, mostly.
Yes.
That's why the GPS data to get the shifts. I was going like, what does that do for the shake? Sorry, a little slow.
So I'm, tooling along in the airplane, and I need support from ground receivers. And I said, well, they're already out there. He said, what do you mean? We'll have to put people. No, Bogota's, that system's been up, and there's another one there in Cali, and well, can't miss.
We've got a virus denier in the chat. I can't help but notice.
Yeah, I saw that.
Which I find kind of and they're asking questions like why do all skeptical positions get pooed on equally? And the basic answer is there are very highly trained professionals that dedicate their entire careers to analyzing scientific data and processing the information that is available. And unless you're one of them, you don't actually have a scientifically meaningful position on the various subjects being discussed. Now, this varies a little bit with how well known the result is. So, for instance, with Flat Earth, it is possible for average civilians to come up with very effective demonstrations that the Earth is spheroidal, because that's very easy to do. But for instance, determining the genetic sequencing of viruses, for instance, not something that the average citizen can do. So, if you want to talk about viruses, well, you're actually not qualified. And I'm sorry, that's cold. Yes, it is. But that's the sad fact. If somebody wants to come up and start lecturing me about satellite gravimetry data, more often than not, I'm just going to say you're not qualified. I am. It's my academic, it's one of my academic specialities, and you're just wrong. And I don't need to entertain the position that you might be right, because I know more than you do on the subject, and I have a greater capacity for analysis than you do. I've been selected for this, and that may sound egotistical, but it's just the plain truth. I have demonstrated analytical capacity that has gotten me to this point in my career trajectory. And the fact that you cannot obtain external validation of your own knowledge base or capacity for analysis demonstrates that all we've got that says that you're a good analyst is your own opinion. And that doesn't count. You may think you're the brightest person on the face of the planet. Unless you can demonstrate it somehow to other people, it's meaningless. Sorry, again, went on to a monologue.
No, you did good. I'm just typing notes to a page out in the chat. Still prattling on out there about verticals. I'm sorry, verticals cannot be parallel. No two verticals can be parallel, Paige. If that...
but two verticals can be the same vertical.
Huh?
Two verticals, if they are parallel, they are the same vertical.
That's what it would be, yes.
Well,
no page, two verticals, no vertical can be horizontal. That's not the definition of a vertical.
Anyway, it's it's, and this is again a fundamental misunderstanding. So Paige is talking about the sort of 3D Euclidean space. Yes, the International Terrestrial Reference Frame uses Cartesian coordinates. It's the simplest coordinate system to calculate distances and velocities in, and that's why we use it all the time. And that's fine. We use that. But vertical does not mean vertical at Earth's surface does not mean parallel to the z-axis in the ITRF. They're different things. You can have verticals that are parallel to the z-axis at the poles of rotation, for instance, or the geometric poles. But in general, verticals are at an angle to the z-axis, because the z-axis and verticals don't refer to the same thing. The z-axis is an arbitrary coordinate choice that we've made, whereas verticals are defined relative to a physical field, Earth's gravitational field. It's absolutely, she seems to think that the z-axis always means up and down. It doesn't.
Well, that is the simple-minded understanding that Bev has of coordinate systems. He sees the z-axis and immediately believes that has always got to be oriented vertically.
Yeah, it's a misconception. It's like people who look at the spheroidal Earth and think that people would fall off the bottom. No, it's it's not a, we have a coordinate system, but that coordinate system is defined independent of the way in which gravity operates. It is defined independent of the concept of verticality. The z-axis in the International Terrestrial Reference Frame is designed to coincide with Earth's poles of rotation. Yes, we live in Euclidean 3D space, but we are on the surface of a spheroid in that 3D Euclidean space. And the behavior that we observe in light paths, etc., on the surface of the spheroid is not Euclidean if you stay in that spheroidal surface. A spheroidal surface in 3D space is not a Euclidean object. Sorry, I heard myself there. Anyway.
Well, the basic problem with people like Paige and Bev is they don't understand the concept of they don't understand what down is. And I always tell them to go ask your nearest 2-year-old, and they will tell you what down is, because 2-year-olds know this.
Well, you need to understand that she comes from Bev University, and in Bev University, vertical and horizontal are geometric terms. When paper organist once told me that I'm confusing dimensions with length and breadth and stuff like that, they know Euclid. Where does Euclid mention vertical or horizontal?
Yes, and there's one of the things that these champions of Euclid fail to understand is that there was a guy called Menelaus who wrote a book called Spherics, which took Euclid's concepts and applied them to the surface of a sphere, pointing out that the sum of angles inside a spherical triangle would always be more than 180, and various other identities. This analysis is thousands of years old. Yes, we understand that this is all about geometry. Again, in the geometry of the International Terrestrial Reference Frame, the z-axis does not coincide with up. That's not what the z-axis is. You are assigning a meaning to the z-axis that it does not have. Yes, and horizontal is only established locally. Anyway.
Tony, can I ask you a quick question, mate?
Yep.
I just wanted to confirm that at my antipode, the direction of gravity is not necessarily directly opposite to the direction of gravity at my location, is it?
Yeah, that's correct.
If it doesn't have to be.
Yes, it could be, but it doesn't have to be. So to an approximation, yeah, that they're approximately opposite in direction. But because the geoid is not a uniform surface, because it varies, you have, it undulates and sort of and warps and that sort of thing. So the local gravity gradient can be offset a little bit from yours. And in fact, if we're being, supremely technical, yeah, no, you won't go there anyway.
Yeah, because I mean, you got things like this Schehelian experiment that
Yeah,
kind
exactly.
of shows that.
Yeah, exactly. So the at any point your the direction of down, the direction that objects fall in, is affected by the mass distribution around you, and that mass distribution is demonstrably not uniform. Sorry.
No, that's excuse me. Sorry. Oh God. Yeah, I just wanted to bring that up because obviously, as you say, as a first approximation, we know that they're roughly opposite, but it's not necessarily always going to be exact. And now I'm going to go on mute and cough my guts up.
Okay.
Well, actually, I think I'm going to wrap this up. It's pushing 8 p.m. in my location, and I need to get something to eat. So, but I want to thank everybody for being here, and we've had a great crowd out there all afternoon. 118 watching right now. So, hope everybody enjoyed it. I may start doing these a little bit more often. It's fun. And it's nice to have an intelligent discussion go on for a change. Instead of talking to people from the other side, because you're certainly not going to get any intelligence out of those people.
No. As Paige is demonstrating in the chat right now.
Paige is another one of these Southern Hemisphere idiot flirts.
Yeah.
I mean, Paige, go outside, look at the stars, look at the fact that there's rotating the opposite direction around a point that doesn't have Polaris in it, and please tell me how that's possible on the space pizza.
Or she could go outside and look at the direction that the sun is, when it rises in the morning, because it's southeast of her when it rises, and she should ask herself, how is the sun southeast of her when it rises in the morning on the flat Earth model?
Yeah, how can that be?
There's no way the sun can get south of the Tropic of Capricorn.
Yes, exactly.
So they have a bad explanation how that works in the northern hemisphere, but they have no explanation how it works in the southern.
But if she could be bothered to make one simple observation, go out, look at the direction that the sun is in the morning, and compare that with a compass, she could demonstrate to herself that the flat Earth model isn't real. It doesn't explain that. And if the flat Earth model cannot explain a simple observation that you can make, then it's wrong.
Well, before I wrap this up, I want to read this thing that you posted, Tony, because it's quite nice. And it says, everybody's seeing it on the screen, but I'll read it anyway. If you're not a scientist and you disagree with scientists about science, it's actually not a disagreement. You're just wrong. Science is not truth. Science is finding the truth. When science changes its opinion, it didn't lie to you. It learned more. That is beautifully said.
Oh. It is.
Yes, it is. And with that, folks, have a good evening. Happy holiday season. Everybody be safe. This is the night before Christmas. So take it easy, and maybe we'll do this again next week one day.
Hope so. Take care, everybody. Have a great holiday season.